New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, hello there. Yes, it's me, Bonnie. Yes, Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. I am a grief coach, a registered nurse, a religious science practitioner, and a soul collage facilitator. And most importantly, I am just a human just like you are. We're all just sharing the space and place called life. So I'm here with you to enjoy and also to just, raise our awareness around grief. And I just want to say, if this is your first time joining, welcome, welcome, and know that you'll return. And if you're returning, I'm honored to know that you're out there. And I ask new and old returning folks to please join the conversation. Make this an hour that you explore grief yourself. So drop a question or comment in the comment box, and I'll be more than happy to respond. And I just want to say, yes, you have come to the right place today. If you are on that journey of recovering from grief, or if you know someone, we all have losses in our lives, and understanding that it's loss that leads to grief. Loss is what we experience. Loss of a job, relationship, friendships, lifestyle, body images, aging, even birth. Giving birth is a loss of a lifestyle that you had before, but now you're moving into parenthood, graduation, leaving behind the known, people that you know, moving into the new. Those are all losses. And grief is what we feel in relationship to those losses. So knowing that at every stage of life, there is the possibility of loss. So therefore, grief is just a human experience, that it is a part of the human experience. And if we can start to befriend grief, it allows us to grieve well. And when we grieve well, we live well. So grieving well leads to living well. As my most favorite author, Bell Hooks, says, we just can't heal in isolation. And that's what grief is there for, to truly heal us, to heal us from that loss. So when we lean into it, when we embrace it, we embrace the very medicine that we need. We embrace what will heal us. But unfortunately, in our culture, we don't always see grief that way. We see grief with all its pain and I was to say agony, it's pain, it's discomfort, it's unpleasantness. That's what we see. But if we realize that that is the medicine, that is the medicine that will heal us. All of that discomfort, moving through that, returning to that sense of wholeness. And as a grief doula, that's what I'm here for, is to walk you through that difficult messy part, painful part of grief. And I just want to say that I read this, and I think I read it last week, but I just want to read it again. Just talks about grief. Grief can either be used as a tool to bring us closer to ourselves and thus to each other, or it can tear us apart. Unfortunately, we are so busy running from loss, like a child that's hiding from the boogeyman, that we don't care who we knock down along the way, as long as sorrow stays far enough behind. But loss doesn't need to be feared, and neither do we ourselves need to fear loss. When we choose to use mindfulness, meditation, different practices, not only does this help us become aware of our own grief and how it impacts our lives, but also to accept the inevitability of loss and of failure. We open ourselves up to new possibilities. We open ourselves up to the beauty, to the connection, to the liberation, freedom, and justice, and peace, internal peace. And that is by Shia Wade. And I just love that. Another person that affirms for us that grief is a super positive aspect of our lives. And I say that the power of grief is to heal. And just want to I want to introduce you to different ways, different practices, even different philosophies that holds grief in a way that we can embrace it, that we can get our arms around it. And so today, my theme today is how Judaism honors grief. Yes, how Judaism honors grief. And I think you will be just pleasantly surprised of the beauty of this philosophy and tradition, religion, if you prefer that word. And so I am just super excited today to have my special guest who's going to help delve into this. And my special guest today is Laura Topper, the multifaceted, award-winning Laura Topper. Laura hosts her weekly broadcast, The Cosmic Prayer Show, the Women of Power Immersion Love Show, and Wisdom of the Mystics, right here on New Thought Media. And Laura, congratulations to Laura. Laura has just completed her ministerial studies this year from Centers for Spiritual Living on the Florida campus. As I said, Laura is also a licensed practitioner, a religious science practitioner. And Laura also holds a master's degree in exercise and health, behavior, and menopause. Ladies, we've got to study here. Laura is also a lab facilitator. And as I mentioned, Laura is an award-winning person. She received the Global Services 2022 Award from the Centers for Spiritual Living. So help me welcome Laura Topper to the show here today. Hello, Laura. Thank you for being here. Oh, I'm just over the moon with excitement to have you here because I think, Laura, you have some experience that you can share with us around Judaism. But before we do that, would you honor us with telling us a little bit about yourself, Laura?
Oh, Bonnie, well, first of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me onto your show and your broadcast and into your intention to share the power of grief and the beauty of unpacking grief and loss. I feel really honored and blessed to be here right now. It's a very special time for all of us. I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing. So thank you. And thank you to Joe, who's producing the show today so perfectly.
Yeah.
I love being here and sharing this knowing of love. And I think to do it through the idea of grieving and grief and loss is just so beautiful and perfect. Thank you, Bonnie.
Yes, I was going to say you're using the word love. And as I said a little bit before the show, that grief is just love persevering. There was, one person I believe said, I'm trying to think how they phrased it. Oh, love, grief is just love with nowhere to go. But we know that.
Yes.
We know if we're grieving the loss of a loved one, we can still pour that love into that person, because the person may die, but love never dies. Love never dies. So, Laura, I know that you grew up in a Jewish household, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
and it's funny, you know, when you asked me to come onto your show to talk about grief from my perspective, it really took me instantly to my grandparents, because I was raised in a very, I wouldn't say an orthodox way, where we were very observant of all of the things, you know, all of the holidays and traditions, and yet we were observant of the kind of the ones that the holidays that most people would, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, Purim, all of those holidays that and so it was at a time my grandparents transitioned. My grandfather, I remember he was probably the first person that I remember transitioning, and I was probably about 12. Right. And I'm 58 now, so you know that was a long time ago. And it wasn't, I mean, I've been to funerals later, you know, more recently even. And it's been very different, because now we have this idea of celebrating life. And when I was at a funeral, you know, or at a service, and when I was younger, that wasn't the emphasis. The emphasis was, and I think in the real Orthodox Judaic tradition, it really is about, you know, this, we're mourning here. We're mourning. Yes. We're really grieving, and there is a time frame for this, and it's beyond one day, and it's beyond 2 days. It's 7 days, and there is a regard for that 7-day period. Now, not everybody sits Shiva. It's called Shiva, which is a 7-day time frame for the mourners to sit, and it's not everybody sits for 7 days. People do, and they still do. You know, it's like this event is happening, and we're going to stop everything. We're going to just stop everything, and we're going to sit very floor, very low, on very low chairs, and allow people to come to visit and reach down, bend down low, to be greet, and kneel down low. So there's this whole thing about being close to the ground that really came to me of being grounded and kind of, you know, that's where the body is. The body has, you know, it's been laid to rest in the ground. So I think for me, it feels very grounding, whole experience of sitting Shiva.
Right. I didn't know the aspect of sitting low, Laura. That feels that grounding, like absorbing, allowing Mother Earth even to support you as you're going through this time.
Yeah.
I didn't know that aspect of sitting Shiva.
And it's a time where, you know, the close family would be expected to do nothing whatsoever. So no cooking, no washing, no cleaning, no, it's almost like sitting Shabbos, which is the Friday night when we light the candles on the Friday night, and we have that regard for our day of rest that in the Judaic tradition, which is a Saturday. If for those that are very observant, they don't do anything. Hasidic and Lubavitch Jews, they do nothing between Friday night and Saturday night. They don't even turn on a light bulb. So yeah, so I think that it's like real day of rest. So I think sitting Shiva would be maybe not so. I'm talking about Orthodox, it would be quite, you just really do nothing and you be in this of grieving and allowing the emotions to be very observed by others. There's no holding back with the feelings and the flow and the crying and the pain and the agony of it.
Yes. Laura, could I ask you, is sitting Shiva, is it just for the death, or can you do it for other reasons? The reason I ask, I don't know if you know American politics. Laura's in the UK, but in the state of Georgia, there's a really famous politician. Her name is Stacey Abrams, and she was an African-American woman, first African-American woman to run for governor of that state. And she lost it by some, we'll just say dubious reasons. It wasn't quite honest and forthright. It was totally devastating for the state, devastating for her. But she said that she sat Shiva. After she sat Shiva for 7 days, she came back with a plan. And she was victorious in her second run for governor. And I don't believe she's of the Jewish faith at all. But she used that term to say to sit Shiva for 7 days and able to go within. And listening to you say that, it sounds like a very quiet and meditative time.
It's a very introspective time, and it's a time where I think probably I can't speak on that, because I believe the only time I've heard of anyone sitting Shiva is because of a death, because of a transition, because of a loss of a person, or the idea of a loss of a physical person. So and it's a time of acknowledging the family. So it's like the close family will sit Shiva. So not everybody will, like distant cousins may not. It's more, it's the wife and the siblings and the mother and the father. It's the people that are really close to that person that would sit Shiva. So, and it really is honoring of of the family unit as well. So I think maybe what she's done is taken the idea of this and used it because there's been a loss for her. And so that's the way that she's been enabled to process it and kind of shut the world out and work through.
Yes, I was going to say, I think it, or for me, it feels like if it's a ritual that can bring me comfort, I would say, I would even sit Shiva if I felt that that there's value in that for me, and that I want to adopt that tradition. I don't feel that it would be disrespectful. Or what's your feeling on that?
I think that to take it as a ritual into another modality, for another reason, then a loss is, who am I to judge that? Because loss is loss, and if somebody is feeling loss, if somebody's feeling emptied and absolutely grieving a sense of loss, then to take a process and use it for another reason, it still is accomplishing something for that person. I would say, though, that the piece about Shiva, I believe, now I'm saying all of this, is in the Jewish religion, when somebody transitions, they are buried very quickly.
Oh, yes.
Usually very quickly. It's usually around within 2 days. So there isn't this big transitional kind of length of time where somebody is in an open casket and people can go and visit, and the body's prepared for days and weeks. You know, everything is very quick. Everything is very quick. And so the Shiva is something that is very immediate, because if you can imagine, that would happen instantly. The Shiva, that person, you know, would be buried, and then within 24 hours, you know, and then the family is sitting Shiva. So it's a real time of deep mourning and remembering.
And it feels like it addresses the loss immediately. That loss
immediately.
And so I'm just trying to phrase this in a way with my own studies and working with people that have that loss of death. It is the sooner they can start that process of being allowed to grieve, the better. Because so many times in our society, it's suppressed. I've known, especially I was from the Baptist tradition, that the funeral could be a week later. And I just know when my own mother died, and I thought we acted very quickly, but it was about 4 days. And I just remember every day I kept thinking, oh, the funeral. It was so anxiety producing, knowing that it was coming up, versus if it had been immediate, that I could immediately start to address that loss, immediately be in grief. To me, that feels more in rhythm with loss. Yes. I know we have a little bit of a delay. I didn't want to overtalk.
A little bit. It's okay.
It's just
teaching me patience here.
Oh yeah, I was going to getting me to just appreciate being in the moment versus
being in the moment
and answer. But and also, Laura, you know, I'm here in Mexico, so this has really been a cultural experience with looking at how this particular culture addresses, you know, death and the process afterwards. Here, it's the same. If someone died today, everyone would come over tonight. Everyone, I mean, there would be a celebration in the street. People would come and there would be outside, and there's candles lit, and there's just this big visual overnight. The next day, they're taken for a church service and then buried, and everybody is together during this time. It's an immediate handling, an immediately attention to the body.
And I think the reason for that is that historically, they couldn't embalm the bodies because the bodies would just decay in the heat, with the heat. So they did this instantly so that the body didn't start decaying outside of the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because of the heat.
My husband's Cuban, the same thing there. You are buried immediately. Right. The next 24 hours, everybody comes, be together, and then there's a ceremony for a burial ceremony that happens. And do you feel that tradition is carried on now, Laura, or is it becoming less and less? Where are we?
I think where are we? I think we are more liberal with it now. So there will be Shiva, and there will be that grace, that time of grace for deep mourning. I think that I think definitely the tradition of it is still there. In the Judaic religion, it's not okay for crematorium. It's not okay to cremate.
Mhm.
So,
Oh,
I think though, yeah, as a rule, the body belongs to God, and the body is buried in the ground. So it goes
mhm,
back to the
mhm.
ground, back to God. So really for me, that's like saying, well, isn't God everywhere? And God is
Yeah,
everything. And so,
right, right.
yeah,
We could bring that in,
we
Laura.
could, couldn't we?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
Um, I think I had to.
but I do think,
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
yeah, so I think, yes, I think these traditions are still definitely kept going, definitely. I mean, I know, I've been to funerals. Just before COVID, I was at a funeral of a dear friend, and I know the whole process is exactly the same. And I
Mhm,
also think that there's an opening up now where people are saying, okay, I want to do this differently as well. And some
mhm,
people do choose to be cremated. And I think there's a more open approach to it. And yet traditionally,
mhm.
this is how it would happen,
Right, right. Oh, Laura,
you know?
yes, you brought up a good point when you said people are now opening up. So, what I want to do is I want to take a break, but I want to come back and talk about people opening up to discuss death. And I know you have some beautiful passages, and I want to be able to share that with our viewers. So, we'll take a
Yeah.
break and we'll come back and we'll talk about this a new movement of really being able to talk about death. So we'll be right back.
Good.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello, I'm back. Oh, I saw a little bit of a commercial break, but something happened. It said my browser didn't want to play. It said, did my browser die in the meantime? So we're back. We're back. So thank you so much. And, today is a very special day that we have Laura Topper here to help me explore the Jewish tradition of grief. And so that's what we're doing. And Laura was just sharing with us about sitting Shiva, and I did ask about if it's okay to maybe partake of that practice, if that's something that brings you comfort, and realizing, just understanding where the tradition comes from, and maintaining the respect for that tradition. So, Joe, is Laura still with us? Yes, a little circling there. I see it's happening. So we'll just give Laura a moment to come back. Hello, Laura. Welcome back. And I don't know if Laura can hear us, but Laura. Oh,
Hi, Bonnie.
I know there was
you.
Yeah, I had a delay.
I'm here. Hi.
Yes. Laura, I was just saying that when we came back from break, and we're now back from break, that I wanted to just discuss a little bit, Laura, about some of the reasons that grief is so hard for us to embrace culturally. We have Deb's there. Hi, Deb's. Deb Love is with us. Thank you for joining, Deb. And hi to Laura as well.
Hi, Debs.
Yes. And what I was going to say to that, to our reason for, some of the reasons for our having such difficulty around the word grief and embracing grief, is because grief has and is associated with death. And that is a hard subject for our cultures to even talk about. Everything is done to avoid that subject. And I was going to say, now I am just happy to announce that there's what's called death cafes, that a place that people can come to. And it's not for grief support, but it's a place to come to just talk about death, what you feel about death. And one of the questions, Laura, I'll bring up, that came up from a death cafe that I was facilitating with some friends here in Mexico. One of the questions was, what was your first experience with death? What was your first experience with death?
So when I think about that, my first experience was with my grandfather, and I was very young, as I said before, and I felt slightly detached because I didn't have a close relationship with him. So I went into the position of witness, and I believe I clammed up because I didn't know how to handle my emotions around what was going on, because there was a lot of upset and a lot of crying. And for me, I wanted to, I couldn't handle that. So as a child, I didn't express that, I think, in the fullest of ways. The thing that really, I believe.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
No, that's okay. And the piece that ties in with this that I wanted to just talk about also, or to bring in with this, is that in the Jewish tradition, we remember death. We have a yortzeit, which is a candle. It's called a yortzeit. And every year on the anniversary of that person dying, we light a candle to remember them. If it's somebody that we sat shiva for, somebody that's close to us that we loved, we will remember them. They are not a figment of the imagination, have gone forever, no more to be talked about. The light of them is kept alive, and every year there is a ritual around remembering them and lighting candles for the knowing of that. So I just wanted to say that because you talked about the death cafe and how conversation around death now is opening up. And I think in the Jewish tradition, there has been an openness, because it's like you remember when somebody, the day that somebody transitioned, and you light a candle. And for me, death, I feel that, I don't know. That's really great questions. How do I be around death? My maturity can kick in, and I can come from a practitioner place, and yet I don't find it easy when a loved one transitions. In my humanness, it's so sad. I think a lot of the time we tend to brush the humanness out of the way, especially as a spiritual guide or a spiritual teacher. There can be a kind of propensity to not actually live into the humanness of this experience, which is so painful. So painful.
Right. you say that, and there's 2 points that I want to get to, the Death Cafe. But before you talked about lighting the candle on the anniversary of the death of the person. And isn't there also another part, 40 days? Is there something with 40 days that you mourn even after sitting Shiva? There's 40 days of a mourning period. Different.
No, there's
Yeah.
no. I think that's for us, it's or for at the burial. There's no stone set. There's no stone set in that immediate funeral ritual. You know, of the actual funeral. The headstone is set a year later. So we go back to the graveside a year later. So it's like there's this year of mourning and grieving and emotional recognition of how we're feeling. And then a year later, the stone is set into in that person's new home, the graveside.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a year, there's a year that you are given permission to grieve.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
None of that. Aren't you over it? Oh my gosh, you are permitted to grieve. That's the beauty of it.
Yes.
You are given permission to grieve.
Totally.
I just, I feel that's so human, so humanistic to be able to have that space and place to just grieve. Yes, so because I was going to say grieving well, as I've said, leads to living well, and just being able to move through it without the residual that happens when we don't grieve and how it affects our health. There's so many consequences of unexpressed grief. There's so many detrimental consequences, and so I just applaud the religion for allowing that to be a part of it. And now I was asking you about talking about the Death Cafe and asking about your first experience with grief. And usually our first experience is what kind of sets the stage for us to move through life. So looking at that part, saying that you were not
it's
confused. It sounds like confused as to what to feel.
And I'm going to share something here. So the next time that I experienced death was when I was 23, and I had a boyfriend at that time, and we had parted ways, and he was Italian, and he went back to Italy, and he was working on a boat, like on a cruise liner. And I had and we hadn't been together for about 2 years. And I had a call one morning from a friend of mine to tell me that he had transitioned. And we had remained friends, not in a romantic way at all, but we had remained with our friendship. And that one completely, I was absolutely, that one.
Yes.
And and he was Italian. And what was incredible was that I had met his family. And I always think of Italian families are kind of the same as Jewish. It's that kind of family, the food, the love. It's like, totally, you know, you can't get out of this web of this family, even if you want to, because there's always the food there, and the love. And so it really allowed me to see that how they were grieving was very much like how you know, how I would have been grieving if he were Jewish, but he wasn't. And that really that emotionally got me, that one. I didn't expect it, because he was so young, and he had so much to give in his life, and he was so full of life, you know. And it let me just see, as I've reflected on this over years, Bonnie, that to really live this moment, because we just don't know, and it's like anything can happen. And so being present in the now and living in the fullness of this life, this is the lesson that Franco brings in for me, to really live it and enjoy it, because I know he was enjoying his life when he transitioned. I know he was living his dream. It's what he'd always wanted to do. And yeah, it's like he was set free, and he transitioned in that whole process. And it really just lets me see that life is here to really take and live and enjoy, to be lived.
Yeah, there is definitely the unknown.
Yes.
So Laura was talking about how we first learn about death, and you were saying that it was your grandfather, I believe you said.
Yeah.
And you were
was my father's father. Yeah.
Right. And we look at the people around us to guide us through that. My first death was with my grandmother, but I was about 9. But I don't remember people really crying and wailing. I just remember my mom was somewhat sad. And I remember she saved the nightgown that my grandmother died in. She saved it and put it in a plastic bag. And I don't know. I was 9. I just didn't even know that death was such a finality for my grandmother's life. So I don't remember even crying. I remember us going, of course, to the funeral, playing with my cousins. That was a big thing because everybody came together. So playing with my cousins. So my first real, as an adult, I was like you, maybe, Laura, about early 20s. And my uncle died. And he died suddenly. And I had to take my aunt to the place where he was working, and he just collapsed at work. But that death was the first time that I really, in this incarnation, in this body right now, dealt with death. And it was I remember not being able to sleep. But what I remember most was not having anybody that I could talk to. That was the part that really, was very, very difficult not to have anybody to talk to about it. And I remember my mother definitely, she was, he died and that's it. And there just wasn't anybody to talk to about death. And I bring that up to say that we as adults just start paying attention to the children that are around us and how we can prepare them, or how we're not change anything, but just awareness about how you are with death, and especially if you're around younger people. How can you maybe set the stage for them, or is there something that you can do, or talking to parents? And I know that you have something special to read, and I'm leading up to that, is that when I was in nursing school, we started studying Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and I fell in love with the whole process of death and dying. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, because I know you have something beautiful to share.
Oh, Bonnie.
Ross.
Well, I discovered this book, Graceful Passages, for anybody that's interested in and wants to purchase this book. It will definitely shift you and open your heart. It's an amazing book. And it's a series of poems that are written by spiritual teachers around death and loss and grieving. And it's a way for us it's called A Companion for Living and Dying. So we can read these and put them into our everyday lives, because we're living and dying in every moment, as spiritual human being, dying to the new in every moment. And the book has the music. Yeah, it's true, isn't it? In Buddhism, you practice the art of dying every day
Yes,
before you
yes,
get up.
exactly.
Yes, the book has 2 CDs. Beautiful music, one
Oh,
with words, spoken word, and one without. So it's worth. And I'm going to read the passage by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. This is her deepest understanding of what is most important in life. Look forward to your transition. It's the first time you will experience unconditional love. There will be all peace and love, and all the nightmares and the turmoil you went through in your life will be like nothing. When you make your transition, you're asked 2 things, basically. How much love have you been able to give and receive? And how much service have you rendered? And you will know every consequence of every deed, every thought, and every word you have ever uttered. And that is, symbolically speaking, going through hell when you see how many chances you have missed. But you also see how a nice act of kindness has touched hundreds of lives that you're totally unaware of. So concentrate on love while you're still around, and teach your children early unconditional love.
yes.
So remember, concentrate on love and look forward to the transition. It's the most beautiful experience you could ever imagine. And so it is.
And so it is. Laura, when you read that, what does that bring to you? What does that bring to you on an emotional level when you read that?
Well, it's amazing you are, because I've underlined this for like 3 years ago. I've made underlinings here, and the words unconditional love. Now, if I know that I'm unconditional love, then I'm not going anywhere as that unconditional love, whether I'm in this physical body or not.
Yes,
My
yes.
soul, I am this unconditional love, and so I can practice the presence of this love in every moment right now. And I think
Yes.
the other 2 lines that I have underlined here that mean something right here for me now is, how much love have you been able to give and receive, Laura?
Yeah.
And how much service have you rendered?
Wow.
I think they summarize for me that idea of, well, what am I doing here anyway in this life, in this body, on this plane? I have to make the most of it.
And
Really
oh
make
my
the
God,
most of it.
make the most of it, Laura. I love the idea of love. What comes to me, what that evokes in me around death is that sense of comfort, to be comforted, to know that it is just a continuation of that love. And as we've said, love never dies. Love never dies. But I hope that it could bring comfort to someone who has anxiety around death. So many people do. That I know for sure. That I know for sure. That people have so much anxiety around that moment of death and that moment of dying. And hearing that just brought me a sense of comfort. I was with my
Yes.
brother. Yes, I was with my brother when he received his terminal diagnosis, and I was holding his hand, and of course, he welled up with tears. But here's what he had to say. He said, "Wow, when you think of me when I'm gone, just remember me with a smile, and remember the good times and the good times of love." So I think that so says it all, Lord. that poem so says it all, that it is all about love, all about love. If there was here's what I say, because Laura is going to be a minister here very, very soon. She's going to be our own Reverend Laura Topper. And Laura, what I feel is that you've heard of first responders, like people that, you know, the ambulance drivers, the first responders that are there at the scene of an accident. And I see spiritual leaders such as yourself being our emotional first responders, especially when it's with death. Are there any words that you would like to put to that, what you would say to someone that does come to you with that issue of someone just died?
So for me, it is all about knowing the essence of that person. And if somebody is in that space of being aware of, or if somebody has just transitioned, I can't take that person's pain away from them. And I think that's also that piece where, you know, that's almost like allow ourselves to feel the feeling of what it feels like to not be present with that person that has transitioned. Really go into that feeling and feel it and allow that, and don't let anybody try to sidewash it or say, oh, it's okay, you know, you'll be all right, time heals. I think that's just such an insult to the whole art of grieving and acknowledging this idea of loss, because I believe that when we tune back into knowing the love of that person and the love of who we are, that we realize that there can be no loss here. There can be no loss. So from a religious science perspective, I would say allow yourself to be with the feeling and to process this and to talk and to cry and to scream and to laugh and to embody the whole sensation of all of this, because it's all a part of the process of knowing who we are as human spiritual beings. And allowing others to show us comfort as well in this time.
Yes.
You know, everybody would handle the idea of death so differently.
Yes, yes.
And I love what you were saying about children, acknowledging that children are going to experience this in so many different ways.
Yes.
And that talking is so important.
And
that's why I honor you, Bonnie, and your work and what you're doing.
Yes. And I want to say, I think that's why it's so important that what has come about with the death cafes now giving us carte blanche to talk about death. Because as I said, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is the reason that I am a doula for grief right now. Her work opened another portal around life that I didn't know was there.
Wow.
That it was, I didn't even know. Understanding death helped me embrace life fully. That fearing of death or not being able to talk about it was really holding my life back. And I wonder if people would take a look at that to see if that's true for you. Because if it is, start to slowly find ways to bring death into our daily, not daily, but into our conversations. And I don't know how you feel about that, Laura. I'll ask your opinion on that of bringing death into our conversations.
I think it's an incredible, I think we're being forced to bring death into our conversations. We're being pushed, not forced. We're being invited to bring death into our conversations and to have open debates, open understandings, religiously, culturally, socioeconomically. I think it's necessary to understand this so that we can help each other and guide each other. We've just been through a massive trauma with COVID and, death and transformation and transitioning. And I think are collectively are being really invited to look at this idea of opening up death as a conversation and getting to the idea that we are immortal beings.
Yes.
And in that place we can find love. We know love.
Oh, Laura, that's yes. Like, I think it's Michael Beckwith, Dr. Michael Beckwith says the corona bonus. And that is one of the bonuses that now it's getting us to look at those areas of life that we hadn't looked at before, but those areas bear a gift that we didn't even know was there. The gift that this whole pandemic has brought. I know Laura has her cosmic prayer program, and that was on this morning, and her guest was really delving into gratitude. So even being in gratitude around what the pandemic has brought into our lives. It has really woken us up or shaken us awake in places that we didn't know we were asleep. So being in gratitude around that.
And I think gratitude, definitely. And I think just as you're saying that, going back to the Jewish tradition, when somebody passes, it's very normal to say to the family of that person, I wish you a long life. That's the thing that you would say. I wish you a long life to the mother or the father or the people that are close to the person that's transitioned. And that's a form of saying, let's be grateful right now and live this life and live it with longevity in our hearts and in our minds. Just know that we have this life to live and enjoy it right now.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't think it's, for me, it doesn't feel like it's saying, well, you better have a long life because somebody's just died. It's like a reminder that life is here to be lived and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, continue to move on. I mean, or continue to go forward. Continue
to go forwards. Yes.
Yes. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Laura, I thank you for being here, and I can't believe our time is at an end. And Laura offers so many beautiful services. Laura, your website, Joe, can you put up Laura's website?
Oh, okay, if you want to.
Laura does tremendous work with empowering women, empowering mankind, period, or humankind. Let's put it that way. But
humankind.
Yes, empowering humankind. Please check out her website. Laura is truly a spiritual inspiration. She's on the cutting edge, the forefront of helping us this forward movement with her ministries that are to come and how she ministers to women and to humankind. And I just am so honored to have had you here today, Laura. Is there anything that we should know that's coming up for Laura Topper?
Oh, well, look, I'm so grateful and honored to be here on your you talk about leading edge, cutting edge, and here Bonnie having this brave new conversation paving a new way for how we see grief and loss and transitioning and death. And I want to thank you for bringing this forwards, because it's so vital right now that we have this honest, authentic conversation around it.
Yes.
And for me, I love bringing women together and holding that container space for women to network and meet and share. And I believe menopause is a time of, really transitioning from one way of being to another, as we let go of that old identity and image of ourselves and embrace the new.
Yes.
So that's what I.
Please. Are you there? Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm a testimony of that menopause, that the best is yet to come, that change that happens.
Oh, yeah.
The best you is yet to come. Join me on this side. Oh, Laura, thank you so much. And I know our time is at hand.
Thank you, Bonnie.
I'm just honored, and I am so overjoyed to be able to have difficult conversations here, just to model for people that it doesn't have to be that difficult. You see, that we can still have this dialogue and come away feeling encouraged and ready to live life. So I thank you, and I am going to say goodbye until next week. New Thought Media Network. So check out all the programming. It's just the best thing that you can do for yourself today. So thank you so much. I will see you next week. Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. I am here for you.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.